Hello, whistleblowers everywhere. Today, we are going to look at something very different from what we usually do. So, we've done a lot of traditional Irish tunes. We've talked about rolls, cuts, taps, crans, double cuts, double taps, all that kind of traditional music, sort of ornamentation. We've looked at different dance music. We've looked at different kinds of dance music from not just Ireland, but we've done a few Scots tunes, and we've even done a couple of Welsh tunes. But today we're going to play through a piece very much in the Baroque tradition, written by Johann Sebastian Bach, and it's a bourrée or bourrée, and it was originally written for the violin. It's a violin partita, but we can adapt it for whistle. So we're going to have a look at this today, and there's lots of different things to think about in this tune. It's certainly not a beginner's tune. It's quite tricky in places, but with a little bit of practice and you'll get this under your fingers. So even though it's quite tricky in places, the other thing which makes it quite difficult are some of what's called the accidentals, some of the sharps which occur in this. And there's different ways we can get them, which I'm going to talk about in a minute when we have a look through the piece. But it's a lovely piece, and we're going to look at tonguing and slurring, because this piece we're not going to use the sort of cuts for note separation, or mostly we're not going to use cuts for note separation, and also we're not all looking to ornament this piece in the way which traditional music is. This predates any of the sort of traditional dance music. It's much older. It's firmly in the Baroque period, and JS Bach was very firmly in the Baroque period. So we're going to play it more in the style of how you would play it perhaps on the recorder, but there are things we have to be aware of in terms of tonguing and slurring. So just to recap on what tonguing and slurring is, we want to try and get what's known as legato tonguing. So we want to try and use a very light tongue and join up those notes. So if we're going to play up the scale of D, so we're separating each note with a tongue, but it's a very relaxed, gentle tongue, and we don't want to hear a gap like this. No gaps. So join up your tonguing. And slurring is where you move your fingers but you keep the breath going. So this would be the same scale but slurred. So tongued. So different articulation. I'm going to go through the articulation that I like to use, but it's not written in stone. And these pieces were never written with articulation. They were written basically as they are, and the players were able to sort of add their own articulation into the pieces. And sometimes you can change it up. You can play it one way, or you can change the articulation another way. The other thing with this piece, it's written pretty much all in quavers. So when you hear wind players play some of these Bach pieces, they tend to play them in a more rubato way. So they'll pause and take a breath and then come back to the speed again. So you may want to think about stylistically more of a rubato approach with this. And if you listen to sort of the flute players who play the Baroque flutes, and which would be typical of what this would have been played on if it would played on a Baroque flute, they have to incorporate the breath and the breathing marks. So rather than trying to snatch a breath and it sounding choppy, they just play them in phrases, and then it's more of a rubato, sort of rolling, speeding up slightly and slowing down, taking a breath and that. So it gives the piece more sort of ebb and flow rather than just playing straight quavers or straight eighth notes. So that's something to bear in mind when you're playing this piece. So what we're going to do first of all is I'm going to show you some of the alternate fingering that you can use to get some of the sharps. And also we're going to talk a little bit about half holing, because not all whistles are able to get comfortably the alternate fingerings. I know mine do, and that's fine with me. But for all whistles, you might be safer to get really good at half holing. But I'll show you both ways, so you can decide whether you want to use the cross fingers or whether or not on your whistle they don't work, then you'll have to use the half holing. Okay, so let's have a look first of all at some of the cross fingering which I use on this piece, and then we'll talk a little bit about half holing. So our first, what's called accidental, that's a sharp or flat or even a natural sound which doesn't naturally occur in the key signature. So we've got C sharp and F sharp which are naturally on this whistle. Today's whistle, I'm using this olive wood high D made by Simon Styles, again from Western Whistles. Another real gem of a whistle, beautiful grain on that. But I find this one does the cross fingering really nicely. So that's why I choose this specific whistle. So I can pretty much get away with most half holing, but for certain ones I will have to half hole. So the first accidental we come across is a G sharp. So if we look at line 3, second bar, we've got the G sharp. So this is the A. Now the way I can get a nice G sharp is just to put the bottom hand down. So there's the A. The other thing with the cross fingering is sometimes you have to adapt your breathing, so you might have to dip your breath a little bit so that you don't blow it sharp. So we're going. Now if I don't dip my breath, it's still a little bit sharp. It also gives it a different kind of texture, which I quite like, because it's reminiscent of the Baroque flute. And when they cross finger, again, they have to be very sort of aware of tuning in those accidentals, and they do get a different kind of texture on the cross fingering on the flute. So, sorry, cross fingering on the flute. So that's the kind of thing that we're dealing with. So the other one we've got is the high G sharp. Which is in the second bar of the fourth line. Now we can get it by half holing. Now if we try and do the same low octave G sharp fingering, it doesn't work. You actually get the higher note. You actually get a B flat or an A sharp, which is useful, but not in this instance. So now, if I keep this finger down and do this forked fingering, then I can get a nice G sharp in the upper register. But it's a good way to practice half holing as well, because as I said, not all whistles use that same fingering. And it might work on your whistle, it might not. If it doesn't, then you'll have to use the half hole. So the way I half hold the G sharp is just partially cover the G. So and it will take a bit of practice to get that accurate and to tune it in. But with practice, you'll be able to move through that G sharp quite well, quite deftly. Okay, so that's the high G sharp, the low G sharp. The other note that we've got is an A sharp. Now there's only one A sharp that occurs in this, and it's in the third bar on the fifth line. So we have this. So the way I finger the A sharp is like that. Now you can tune it with this, and that might need to come down in pitch. However, on this whistle, I can use that by slightly dipping my breath to tune it in. Okay, so that's, excuse me, that's the G sharp in the upper register, G sharp in the lower register, and that one A sharp, which I'm fingering like so. You might have to experiment on your whistle and maybe add more fingers to flatten it if you find it's too sharp. But I find that on this whistle, this works nicely. And if nothing else works, then you have to half hole it. So if cross fingerings don't work, then, or if you're finding it a struggle to use them, then just use half holes. They're absolutely fine, and you can guarantee that half holing will work on every whistle, whereas cross fingerings don't always work. Yeah. So we've got the only other one which we've got is the D sharp. Now that occurs in the lower register on the first bar of line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, line 7, and the third bar in the upper register of line 7, bar 3. And there is no cross fingering. You have no option, but you have to half hole. So we're going to go. So I'm using this bottom finger to shade. Now you can use the tip. But I just learned to use this finger and keep it straight and just shade that hole. And then the upper register, we've got this. Again, you can use the half hole with the tip of the finger, or I just shade it with the finger straight. So you've got to be careful not to put too much finger on like I did there. Otherwise you're just sounding a very sharp D natural. Anyway, half holing. That's the only option you've got, I'm afraid, on this whistle. On Baroque flutes, you always get at least one key, and the key is the E flat, because that's the only note you can't get with half holing. So have a practice of those. Try and practice those outside of the tune, just to practice getting used to tuning those notes, either by using the cross fingers or by practicing the half holing. So just to go through them again, the G sharp in the lower register on my whistle. So we've got this fingering for the G sharp. In the upper register, we've got so on this whistle, adding this finger tunes it much better. So when I get to that high G sharp, was the bar 2 on the 4th line. So on that little phrase, and again, practice those bars just to practice the cross fingering. So you've got so we've got the A sharp, which works nicely on this. That works nicely, and then practice that half hold D sharp. Again, I'm going to use the tip. Anyway, that's all your cross-fingered notes or half-hold notes in this tune. So we've got 2 halves. Now, there isn't a repeat, but you usually repeat the first part and then the second part. Play it through A, A, B, B, and that's what we're going to do here. There's no repeat signs written in here, but you've got the 2 sections. So the first 1, 2, 3, 4 lines are the A part, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, which is the B part. And so you play through each A part and B part through twice, and that's how we're going to do it today. So let's have a look now at the A part. I'm going to talk a little bit about the tonguing and slurring articulation, which we're going to use. So let's slowly play through the A part, the first 4 lines. It starts on an anacrusis, so we're starting on beat number 4. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 1, and 2, 3, and 4. So articulation wise, you can use what sounds best for you, but this is what I use. Tongue, 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 slur, tongue, tongue, slur. Tongue, 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 slur, tongue, tongue, slur, tongue. Tongue, slur, tongue, slur, tongue, slur, tongue. Tongue, slur, tongue, slur, tongue. Then tongue, slur, tongue, slur. Then I'm tonguing all the rest of those 6 quavers, 8th notes separately. And we carry on that pattern pretty much all the way through. So same thing. So I messed up that high G sharp. I'm used to using the half hole there. But we can use that. Like that. So I'm going to play it all the way through with the articulation very slowly so you can hear and see what I'm doing. repeat it. So that's the kind of the A part. And again, if you want a half hole, you might have to, especially that takes a lot of practice half holding it. So I find that comes in really handy for that G sharp. And it's got its own kind of nice texture, which is very reminiscent of the Baroque flute. Okay, so let's have a look now at the B part. Mostly plain sailing. We're going to stick pretty much to the same tonguing and slurring pattern, but we do have that sneaky high A sharp, which we'll look at now. So in terms of cross fingering and half holing, I actually find it's better to half hole the high G sharp, certainly when you're coming up on that scalic passage. That and what I'm doing is just sliding that finger across. You can, of course, cross finger it. But I find it easier just to half hole that. So slowly, let's have a look. So same articulation, or very similar articulation. So now we have the A sharp. So let's have a look at that again. And again. So we've got more same of that tongue slur, tongue, 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 tongue. Now getting that D sharp is quite tricky, so you're going to have to practice. And again, practice getting the tuning on that. So let's do the articulation on that. So Okay, last part now of the B part. So we're going to use the same tongue slur and then tongue slur, tongue, 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 tongue. Sorry. So the last bit, tongue slur, tongue slur, tongue, tongue. So once again. And then the last line. So tongue, tongue slur, tongue, 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 tongue. So let's do the whole of the B part now, slowly with the tongued articulation and the accidentals. So regarding ornamentation, really, I think in this case, probably not very much. There's a lot going on. We don't want to clutter it up. But there are a few little twiddly bits we can put in. So that's what's called an upper mordant. Note itself, note above, note itself. And again, upper mordant on the A. Again, it's a matter of taste. If you don't like them, don't use them. And again, you can get as fancy as you want. I even threw in a little cran there. Not at all in keeping with the tradition of the Baroque, but I think it sounds good. And just a little short trill on that F. So again, use them if you want. Just use them with discretion. That's the important thing with this. We don't want to clutter it up. So let's have a look at the next bit. Again, you could put a little now I'm doing a lower mordant on that. but it should really be a G sharp. So let's try that with a few little ornaments. Last bit. Right, so the B section. Yeah, a little trill. So I'm putting a little cut on the B there. Next bit. And again, lower mordant, but a D sharp. Again, lower mordant using the G sharp. And again, the upper mordant on the B. You could do a little trill. Or you could just do a little mordant. So just a few little ornaments that you can throw in. Right, let's play it all the way through now. I'm going to play it through first time without any ornamentation. Second time I'm going to add just a few little twiddles to make it sound interesting. Okay, so let's play it all the way through. I'm just going to throw in a few little ornaments here and there, just to show you what I like to do. So, not too fast. And that's it all the way through, folks. Have fun with it. It's a great little piece for practicing smooth legato tonguing and slurring and mixing up your articulation. And as I said, you don't have to follow my articulation. You can play it with more slurs or more tonguing, however you want to articulate it. But the most important thing is to get it smooth. We don't want any sort of choppy kind of tonguing in this. It's all about legato smooth tonguing. So if you found this video helpful, if you could subscribe to my channel, that would be wonderful. If you could give me a like and share it amongst whoever you feel may be interested in playing some Bach on the whistle. So it's a gorgeous day here, folks. It's been lovely. Sun is shining, warm temperatures, a proper summer day again. So we're doing well with the warm summer weather. Okay, folks, that's it for now. I shall see you all again shortly. Bye for now.